Our next guest is the author of a counter-narrative on firebrand abolitionists, the Grimke sisters, who gave up privileged lives on their family's plantation to join the fight against slavery. But a new book reclaims the forgotten black members of their family, the Grimkes, the legacy of slavery in an American family. Our author, joining us now, Carrie Greenidge. She is currently Mellon Assistant Professor in the Department of Studies in Race, Colonialism, and Diaspora at Tufts University, where she also co-directs the African American Trail Project. Hi, Carrie. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So the book weaves together the story of the white Grimke sisters and the black Grimke family. Tell us who the Grimkes are and what inspired you to write a book about this family.
So the Grimke sisters, Sarah Grimke and her younger sister Angelina Grimke, were born at the turn of the 19th century. Their family, the Grimke family, were notoriously wealthy slaveholders and slave traders in Charleston, South Carolina. And the white Grimke sisters, by the 1820s, left Charleston, moved to Philadelphia, and embraced the cause of anti-slavery. And so this was a story that you're told in history books, that I was told in college, but sort of a lesser known story outside of kind of the black community is the story that the Grimke sisters were also the aunts of three African-American boys who were born to their brother, who was a white slaveholder, and an enslaved woman named Nancy Weston. And so I came at the project really trying to understand what is that legacy in a family, which is a story of many American families where you have sides that are related to both the slaveholders and the enslaved, and that what does it mean to grow up in a family where that legacy is very much alive? And then also, how does that legacy continue into the following generation? So
what did you learn as you were putting together the book?
Well, one of the things I learned is that the relationship between the white Grimke sisters and the black Grimke, their black Grimke nephews, was much more fraught than historians would sort of think. So the story that we'd been told was that the white Grimke sisters embraced the young black nephews. And while that was true in the sense that they supported them economically, that embrace came with a lot of caveats and a lot of
such as?
One of the caveats was the ways in which the Grimke sisters talked about African American ability and skill. The fact that the white Grimke sisters had all of these notions rooted in slavery about the role of black men and the potential for black men.
So even though the Grimke sisters were abolitionists, they still had a patronizing perspective toward their bloodkin.
Toward their bloodkin, very patronizing, and very much, I said in another talk when I've been talking about the book, it's a difference to see African American people and black people as equals, as opposed to seeing them as a cause that you have to uplift. And the Grimke sisters, in my estimation, were guilty of the latter. They very much believed that black people should be uplifted, that slavery was wrong, and yet they couldn't really relate to African American people as individuals or as people who might have agreements and disagreements and politics and ideas different from their own. Yes.
Now, you talked about their travels from Charleston, South Carolina to Philadelphia to D.C. Do they have any Boston ties?
Oh, yes. So one of the Grimke sisters' nephews was Archibald Henry Grimke. Archie Grimke ended up attending Harvard University Law School. He founded a black law firm in Boston in the 1870s and 1880s. Archie Grimke also became the head of the Westboro State Hospital out in Westboro, Massachusetts, west of the city. And he lived in Hyde Park with his uncle who was married to Angelina, his white aunt, whose name was Theodore Weld. So
Weld?
Weld, yes.
Okay. There's another name that we know in Massachusetts. Weld?
Yes, the Weld name. So the Weld family is a very famous family, political family in New England, and Theodore Dwight Weld is related to a branch of that Weld family, our former governor of the state of Massachusetts.
So again, another example of America being the great melting pot.
Yes, a great melting pot, and all these stories sort of coming together.
So tell us more about what you learned about the relationship between the black abolitionists of Philadelphia and the Grimke sisters. And is there anything else that we can learn about the attitude and the approach that they took relating to the racial justice movement of today?
Yes, so the white Grimke sisters, when they arrived in Philadelphia, and I stress this in the book, they encountered a black community that had been fighting against slavery, fighting against segregation, fighting against slave catchers, fighting for education for their children for going on 50, 60 years. And so when the Grimke sisters arrived in the 1820s, they met people like James Forten and the Forten sisters, these very famous black abolitionist families, and yet the Grimke sisters had a hard time recognizing that the black community really was running the abolitionist movement, and that the black community had their own very vibrant political community that was fighting and protesting against the institution of slavery.
Again, kind of the patronizing perspective that here in Boston and in Philadelphia and many other cities, as you said, the black folks were in charge of the effort.
Yes, right, and one of the tensions that I saw between the Grimke sisters and this black community was that the Grimke sisters believing that they were entering and starting this movement for the first time, and not recognizing that the black community, you know, by the 1820s had 4 of their own churches, ran their own school department, was instrumental in rescuing fugitive slaves from slave catchers who were coming from the South. So this was very hard for the Grimke sisters to reconcile with.
It might be an obvious question, but why isn't the full history of the Grimkes taught in schools?
I think it's a complicated history. I think it requires us to really understand the nuances of relationships between people who are marginalized and targeted by sort of racial systems, and those who are sort of the arbiters of those systems. It's sort of the relationship is much more complicated than we kind of are ready to talk about.
Now, I can't let you go without asking. You come from a family of writers. You have 2 other sisters who are also writers. How did all of you develop love for the written word?
I think stories. We love storytelling. We read a lot as kids. We were those kids who ran, you know, plays in the backyard. My older sister, Kirsten Greenidge, is an award-winning playwright. My younger sister is an award-winning novelist. And so I think we like stories, and we like complicated stories and how you tell those, and getting audiences to see kind of the complexities around them.
Must have been fun around the dinner table. Did you guys make up stories and plays when you were little?
Yes, we were. My poor mother and our neighbors would all have to sit around and watch our plays and stories. I would write stories that were like 10 pages long and forcing people to read them. So yes, we were those kids in the neighborhood.
Well, your mother's patience paid off.
Yes.
Carrie Greenidge, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to Clarissa Edgerton at Frugal Bookstore in Nubian Square in Roxbury for telling us about this must-read book.